Hey guys, welcome back to Andy's Dinosaur Reviews, and today we have something pretty interesting to take a look at. We have actually one of the newer Primal Clash figures that have come out from Lanard Toys. Now, if you do remember Primal Clash, it is a dinosaur toy line that does include like humans and stuff in it, and the line originally was named Jurassic Clash. It was renamed to Primal Clash when it came to the United States and was showing up in Walmarts here for a little while. Unfortunately, it only had like one season's worth of toys, it seemed like, and then the line disappeared from Walmart. And I did see it pop up a few times, actually still under the Jurassic Clash name, at Ollie's, and since then I have yet to see any of these anywhere in the United States. However, I recently stumbled upon a website called Kidden, and on that website they had some of these newer Primal Clash figures that had come out, and I've been kind of searching for these for quite some time because I really quite enjoyed the original line of Jurassic Clash and Primal Clash, and I really wanted to get some of the newer ones into my collection, and I finally was able to get at least a few. I have two of them. Unfortunately, not the one as far as this goes that I was hoping, because on the website the image that it actually portrayed was the Giganotosaurus, but I ended up getting this one here instead, which I believe is the Giganotosaurus. And you can see the packaging looks pretty decent. Again, it's kind of fun for what it is. Definitely has a nice Primal Clash logo up here. You've got a pretty interesting shot of some sort of a feathered-ish kind of dinosaur over here, and then down here it does state Battle Beast and Primal Creature Collection. And then here on the back, yes, we can see again the confirmation that this is in fact the Giganotosaurus, and then there is also a Carnotaurus that is in the line. I was really hoping for the Giganotosaurus. I ended up with the Giganotosaurus. It is what it is, I guess. I don't know if I should take a shot at ordering from there again unless they can confirm that they would give me this one, but it doesn't say so. Again, the original image on the listing was for this, so that's what I thought I was getting. Ended up with this, so whatever. But you can see again some information here on the Primal Clash line as well. So let's go ahead, pop this box open, and check it out. So here is our Primal Clash Giganotosaurus out of the packaging, and I can say with confidence that this is maybe the most lackluster figure I think that this company has released so far. Oh, screw holes on the other side. Look at how crazy ridiculous looking it is once you close the mouth. It looks so silly. It looks like his head was run over by a steamroller or something. But the figures, again, as far as the older Primal Clash figures, did seem to have some fun, some style. They had a lot of character to them. There was some really cool stuff that they had released. The newer figures don't seem to have quite that same feel, quite that same charm, and specifically one thing about this figure that I actually have my own suspicions about, but many people had mentioned when I originally had promoted these in a news video, was the fact that this might be a knockoff, a bootleg of the Mattel Rajasaurus. Now, when they had originally said that, I was thinking like, no, Lanard Toys doesn't seem like they bootleg things. I can't see that being the case. But now actually having it here and having a chance to really look at it in person, there are definitely some strong similarities, so I'm thinking they may have been right about that, but we will bring the Rajasaurus in here in a little bit and compare to exactly figure that out. But one thing that is also leading me to potentially believe that is on the box art, you can see the background here showing off that there is an action feature, but what does it show? The Papoceratosaurus. So clearly they are not above using somebody else's work for their own benefit, because clearly they didn't bother putting some sort of an image of one of their own figures back here. They stole the Papoceratosaurus. So that was like the very first thing that kind of like made me think maybe this is in fact a bootleg, and then of course the fact that it does look very similar, but I thought maybe it was one of those kind of copy your homework sort of situations where they base their figure potentially off of the Rajasaurus from Mattel. But we'll go ahead, get a closer look at this, and we'll figure that out again after. You can see when it comes to the overall sculpt, it looks about as goofy as it gets. It looks very, very silly, especially once the mouth is closed. It looks completely crazy. The fine detail is okay in certain areas, like above the eye area. You can see the scales look pretty decent, and down below the eye, it also looks fairly decent. As you move up in toward the palate area, you can see see the scale detail becomes a lot finer, but it also becomes extremely muted in certain areas as well. We do see the nostrils right there. There are kind of like some ridges that lead up and over the top of the snout, also over the middle of the snout, and then of course the same thing on the other side. There's a random bluish tone here on the top of the head, but the primary color of this figure is a green. We can see a small line of like ridges moving along the underside here of the lower jaw as well. The scale detail on the lower jaw looks okay again for what it is. I knew my camera would not like this because it for some reason has an issue with greens. You can see the teeth are sculpted okay. They don't look too bad. They're all sculpted fairly decently for the most part. Painted somewhat decently as well. No super huge sloppy areas that I can see. We can see the tongue inside the mouth, which is sculpted quite nicely also, and kind of has a little bit of texturing to it. It also has some nice paintwork with a pinkish tone. Unfortunately, there isn't any coloration on the inside of the mouth on the upper side at all. As you move into the top of the head, you can see some brownish tones that pick up and then lead down through the body, but in very Mattel-like fashion. They actually end pretty much in the hip region, and then they are gone. This figure overall is one of the most Mattel dinosaur figures that I've ever seen that is not from Mattel, except it doesn't quite have the impressive sculpt quality that Mattel does. Like, it looks very much so like it's a long-lost Mattel cousin or something. But as you move down, you can see the ridges moving along the back of the neck. You also see like the osteoderms and stuff following down here along the side. And then you can see a little bit of like hanging skin here in the throat region of the dinosaur. Following down, you see more of those osteoderms and stuff moving through the body, very Mattel Rajasaurus-like. You can continue to see the ridges moving along the back of the dinosaur as well. As you lead down, you can take note to things like the rib cage showing there, some more decent scale detail. You have kind of weird looking arms as you lead down, very muscular, but like there's this really weird bulky spot right here that definitely gives it an awkward look. We can see a really pointy elbow, and then as we lead into the hands, we have scoots moving down the fingers, and the nails are unpainted, also very Mattel-like. The wrists are also pronated, which is unfortunate, but then again, it's not a huge deal because it's not like anybody's looking at this figure as being a, award-winning Giganotosaurus to add to their collection that overtakes every other. As you lead back, you still see more of the osteoderms and stuff following along. You can see the musculature here in the leg. Again, the detail looks fairly decent for the most part. The skin texture, again, has kind of an okay look to it. The kneecap is nicely shown in the front of the leg. You can see the calf muscle there in the back of the leg. As you lead down into the foot sculpt, you can see scoots moving down the toes. No painted nails yet again. The feet look severely like Mattel dinosaur figures' feet, so that's definitely not a good sign for them either. And then as you lead out, first of all, we have like a really silly sticker right here, which we're just going to get rid of. But you can also see that the tail, also in very Mattel-like fashion, is extremely short. Definitely not an accurate length for this figure, for the tail of this figure. You can see that the scoots follow the rest of the way out, those like osteoderm-like scoots. The ridges tend to kind of disappear as you lead into the tail, though. As far as articulation, we did see that we have an articulated jaw, articulated neck. I guess that's part of the action feature we'll try here in a moment. You can also see articulated arms, which go forward and back. Articulated legs, which also go forward and back, and there is some pretty decent mobility in those areas. And then you have, nope, I thought there was a swivel tail, but I guess there is not. So, not the greatest looking figure, that's for sure. There's also something on the underside of the throat. I don't know what that is. And you can see again some screw holes on the other side. We've got 5 screw holes, which is definitely unfortunate. It's always unfortunate to see screw holes on figures, but I don't really remember that being a big issue with the older Lanard Toys Primal Clash and Jurassic Clash figures, but I could be wrong. It's been a little while since I've seen them. You can also see that the biggest difference outside of the screw holes on this side would be the positioning of the leg, as one leg is taking a step further than the other leg again, which is trailing. So as far as the action feature goes, as you can tell, we have quite the long noise that it makes. We also basically just push the head down and it has a snapping feature with the jaw. I don't know if we have a different noise or if it's only one, so let's try it again. Yeah, I'd say it's only one noise, unfortunately. So, kind of lackluster as far as that goes, but not the worst thing ever. The noise is kind of okay, I guess. As far as the size goes, you were looking at about 12 3/4 inches, or around 32.5 centimeters. And then for a height in the position it's currently in, just shy of 6 inches, or pretty much 15 centimeters on the dot. For a size comparison, there is Mr. Papo T-Rex, the Attack Pack Colovosaurus, Robert Muldoon, and the Collect A Human Being next to our Lanard Toys Primal Clash Giganotosaurus. And you can see again that the figure is not really huge, but it's not small. It's a decent size. I would say roughly the same size as the Mattel Rajasaurus as well, which is, again, just more evidence adding up to what we potentially think is a knockoff here. So let's actually just grab that figure, we'll bring it in, and we'll compare the two. Now, this particular Rajasaurus has weak legs. The hip region, basically like there in the thighs and stuff, is weakened, so it kind of slouches. So I can't get it to really stay in exactly the same position as the Giganotosaurus from Lanard Toys here. But instantly, one thing that I see that draws a strong similarity is the positioning of the legs. The Rajasaurus and Giganotosaurus both have their legs in the exact same positions. I will say the feet also look extremely similar. When we bring the feet in, you can see that they do look very similar overall. Maybe not perfect. We can actually see like the toe leading down a little bit more so on the Lanard Toys version compared to the Mattel version. The dew claw is also a little bit different. It's like slightly smaller and shaped slightly differently. But again, it looks like another one of those situations where if it isn't a knockoff, it's definitely been borrowed from Mattel as far as the style, and we can clearly see where they got their inspiration from. The toes are actually also a little different. You can see that there's like some clearing between the toes on the Lanard Toys figure, whereas the Mattel toes are all held together, so there is a little bit of difference. The arms are definitely very different, so I don't think we need to go over that, but the biggest thing would be the body looking extremely similar. And when we look here, you can see that the osteoderms and stuff do look extremely similar, but slightly different as well. Like the osteoderms are a little bit larger here on the Rajasaurus, whereas they're smaller on the Giga. And they look kind of similar in the neck, but you can see there's only really one row of them on the Rajasaurus, whereas there's two rows on the Giga. Definitely very different style to like the ridges moving along the back of the neck. The ridges moving along the spinal column do look extremely similar, but not exactly the same. And the entire way that the back actually looks here moving along is quite different from the way that the Rajasaurus looks. The tail is also quite different. We can see that the tail overall, it's a lot flatter on the Giga over the Rajasaurus. So, boy, I don't know. I mean, the legs definitely look different as well. The entire style of skin texture looks really different. I was really confident that it was a bootleg, and now I'm not absolutely positive. I almost have it standing like that. There we go. I mean, it's definitely a little higher, but I'm not absolutely positive now as far as whether or not this is a bootleg, but I think it is without a doubt a huge inspiration for the creation of the Giganotosaurus from Lanard Toys. I'm really intrigued to hear your thoughts again after taking that closer look, if you guys think that this is in fact a bootleg. You know, at this point, I'm not entirely sure I would put it past Lanard Toys to do that. I had never known them to do that prior, but if they did not absolutely bootleg parts of the Rajasaurus, without a doubt, they took some heavy inspiration from it. So this Lanard Toys Primal Clash Giganotosaurus figure is not really that great. It is quite goofy looking, and I definitely feel like they could have done a better job on the overall sculpt, and definitely could have ironed out something looking a little closer to what a Giganotosaurus looks like, because this definitely isn't it. The fine detail is also really quite lacking. It looks okay for what it is, but there's nothing on this that truly impresses me when it comes to the sculpt and detail. For the most part, many areas are kind of washed out and muted when it comes to the skin texture, and nothing really impresses me. Not like the Mattel sculpts, where I'm always blown away by the skin texture and stuff that they include. This one, for the most part, doesn't look very impressive in that aspect. It does have some articulation, which is pretty smooth. It works nicely. nicely. It also has an action feature that works okay, and some sound effects, or at least just one sound effect. That's not really the greatest, but it's not bad either. At least they didn't take like a Mattel T-Rex roar or something that I noticed. Maybe I'll have to go back and listen to it again. But overall, that's okay for the figure. The color scheme is definitely really quite generic, and there wasn't much put into it. Overall, the color doesn't last very long on the figure either, so it kind of looks, a little naked, very Mattel-like as far as that goes. No painted nails or anything, which is also a bummer. So, without a doubt, this is the most Mattel-like figure that I think I've seen from any company without being an actual Mattel release, and somehow finding a way to make their figures look cheaper than the Mattel figures. I don't know. It's not that good. I do still want to get my hands on the Giganotosaurus just because it's a Giganotosaurus and I have a problem when it comes to those, but this one I can definitely say is an easy pass for anybody unless you really like the Primal Clash figures. But if you are interested, I will include a link in the description to where I purchased mine. Again, the Kit-In website is pretty cool. It does have some fun stuff, and they do ship worldwide, which is a plus. So if you are interested, check the link in the description. Go grab this, I guess, Giganotosaurus, and like, comment, and subscribe, and I will see you in the next review. Thanks for watching.